success, to motivate that. That's the purpose of a parent. And that's kind of what that parent does. If you looked at it as the old game where you take a hoop, right, and you roll the hoop and you tap it with the stick, that's parenting. You don't knock the stick over, right? You tap it with the stick. And when they're young, you got to pick up the hoop and kind of get it moving until it gets some momentum. And then when they're teenagers, it's pretty much that hoops roll down the hill and you're hoping that you can just yell ahead, stay out of the ditch, right? At which point, that's the parenting. But it's okay because they slow back down as they get up to their early 20s and start having kids, and then you're back to helping them up the hill, right? Watching their kids and all stuff. So the idea that a parent can use discipline to guide their child in the direction that they're heading, and they can use a motivation. They can lift them up and move them in the path you're trying to aim them for, or that they're aiming for themselves, and enjoy it. A spouse is different, and I tease my wife of 20 plus years that friends are friends and a spouse is a spouse. Don't undermine being a spouse as saying I'm your best friend. I'm not, I'm your spouse, that's different. There's a lot of things your friends can do together, and a lot of ways that your friends encourage and support things that aren't always the truth. And all, you know, they're friends. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're just going to reinforce whatever you want to believe sometimes because they want to be your friend still. Whereas a spouse has to be a lot more honest with each other to make the decision as to working together, because you're supposed to be a married couple, which makes them both strong together as a couple or an individual. So if you're hurting your spouse, you're hurting yourself type of thing. Whereas a friend might not try to help you, and always in the best interest of what you're doing, although we'd like it to be that way. So the parents need to judge, praise, and on a rare occasion punish. And parents are not friends. We don't want parents to become friends because, again, they got to do a job, and we see a lot of that in this non-conservative world. To me, spouses are special, so calling our friends not really elevating that relationship. It has to be special. And that's the goal of a spouse. And every day that you stay married, it becomes more unique because most marriages don't last very long. So things that are rare have more value. So therefore, the longer your marriage lasts, the more rare it is, the more valuable it is. And if you look at it that way, you can recognize that there's a lot of value to continuing that relationship as a comparison when we look at the word of friends, right? So what is a friend? And I was trying to teach my kids that they should be able to identify friends, right? And how to keep as many friendships as they can. So I came up with these 5 rules. I tried to put them with a numerical code to them because that's just the way my brain thinks. So the first rule of being a friend, you can't even have a friend unless you listen to them. They should listen to you and you should listen to them. It's kind of probably how you found out you were going to be a friend in the first place, is when you physically either talked, met, or joined in on something that they were doing as well. So that's the first part. The second part is 86. I believe 86 was an old Navy thing from what I remember, that, and I wasn't in the Navy, but to 86 something was AT6, which means to discard or get rid of. And it turned into 86. But to 86 something just means you're going to throw it out. So if you are a friend, you're going to look at the things that your friends do, judge them, and decide whether it's good or bad, and then mention it. Hey, maybe you shouldn't cross the street without looking both ways. I noticed you were doing that. A friend would tell another person that to protect them in their best interest. However, here's the difference. A parent will stop that person from doing it. A spouse will probably get involved and prevent that from happening because you don't want to hurt yourself. Whereas a friend needs to take that one step further and say, if you want to take that risk, that's on you. Because you're an individual and friends can't stop other people from doing things the way a parent stops a child. And a spouse doesn't stop the other person, it just leads them in that direction. But that's the difference between a friend and trying to look at the negatives and help them out. I smoke a cigar on occasion. If someone wants to stop me from smoking a cigar, they can educate me, they can teach me, but I'm a right to do whatever I want. And the toughest thing about freedom is letting someone else have some. But at the same time, sharing that information is valuable, right? Then the next one is don't punish them, forgive them and move on. If they happen to like to walk across the street without looking both ways, so be it, you know? God will sort them out. The next one was 256. 256 is 2 to the 8th power, which means 2 times 2 times 2. So if you meet friends and you have 2 people and they met 2 people and then they met 2 people, that's kind of sharing your friendships. What I was trying to teach my kids is if they have friends that they can't share with other people, they should be really worried about what kind of friend they have, that they don't want to tell someone else about this friend that they have for whatever reason. So that was the idea there. And then the last one was 856, which is the 5th rule that gets you from in between of 86 and your friends, which is basically give them the benefit of the doubt. So if they do something wrong or they dissed you or there's a problem, go back to rule number 1 and ask them. Listen to them. Find out what they did and why. See if it was on purpose. See if it wasn't. See what was going on. Maybe they don't want to be a friend, but then at the same time, don't throw away a friend just because you didn't communicate. There's so many people that haven't been friends with each other that I met, and they've never talked to them to find out why. They just know that they're not, and it's kind of a strange thing. So let's skip that forward to back to what we were talking about. So when you think about that trundling, is what it's called with the wheel, if we look at our government as our friend, because it should be of the people, by the people, and for the people. If we look at it and observe, judge, and punish as if that government is our kid, and when we look at it that way, we can use that beaten stick to make sure we keep them on the straight and narrow path. If we don't do it, no one else will. So I'm asking everybody to become an activist, and we'll show you how, so that we can help with that. One of the best ways is to learn your rights as a citizen that's going to control this government, because in America, this is the way it's supposed to work. It's of the people, for the people, and by the people, right? So, or by the people, for the people. So, since it's our government, they have rules. We set up those rules. We had input in those rules. And every time the government's going to make a rule, and prior to it making a rule, in the United States, it forces that government to ask the people first. It's just the fact that they don't get involved that you get this idea that you can't fight City Hall and they'll do what they want. Because once they're elected in, they do what they want. So the goal is you got to get involved. So one of the ways is to videotape everything. I have one of these that Carol asked me to bring down, and then she ended up buying one herself. This is a 360 camera. If I stick this on a table, it now records everything within this room in all directions all at the same time. You put that in a meeting room, you've collected the audience, and you've collected the board or the supervisors or whatever. So the way that works is think of me on the pitcher's mound, holding this camera, and then you take out that camera, I take out my cell phone once it's on YouTube, and I can look at the home plate with my cell phone, and if I move my cell phone here, I'm looking at first base, third base, if there's clouds in the sky, and I can turn it around and I can see if the outfielder's, catching butterflies or he's working, and you can look at the entire room. So if you stick this in a meeting room, when you go back home, you can watch on your screen the entire room, just like you're in this room turning your head. And that camera allows you to do that. They're very inexpensive. Gonna get you to get one. And if you can capture that video and just put it online, you don't even have to say anything, do anything. You show up, you push a button, you sit down, you take it when you're done, you plug it in the internet, and it goes on YouTube. Anybody can watch it. It's amazing. And when she was doing the speakers at that school board meeting, when they were having their trouble that they weren't talking to the parents, I put that on the podium one can stop you, right? So that's the